Hello, we are live. Happy Monday, everybody. Welcome back to my channel. I'm CaitlinMcKeague. I am a real estate broker here in Phoenix, Arizona. Every Monday, I'm here at 4 o'clock doing an update, whether I'm live or not, talking about what's going on in the Phoenix real estate market. And today I am live. So thank you, all of you who are here and joining me on today's update. We're going to talk about a lot of different things. Of course, we're going to talk about CPI and what's going on with inflation. We're going to talk about some cities across the country that have had the most price drops on a national scale in terms of their home values, and a few other things like, of course, the CMI. We only have 3 cities this week that are in a trending direction for sellers. We've got contracts falling out, and there's some data as it relates to rents. We've hit a new record since 2005, I think. So I'm going to share all of that with you as well. So let's get started. And if you're here live, say hi. Oh, awesome. I am so glad to see you guys are here. Hi, Cato. Hi, Robert. Thank you for joining. All right, let's get my name off here. And let's look at this first article that we've got. So we're going to start by talking about the CPI. Man, it's just painful. I'm getting sick of talking about this every week. Anyone else? Inflation remains relentless. The overall index climbed 8.2% in September versus the prior year, a slight moderation from the 8.3% the previous month. Really not much change, and all discussion has been that the Fed's going to continue to stay hawkish and raise federal funds rate again. I think they meet November 2nd is their next meeting, and sounds like word on the street is another 75 basis point hike. What else is new? So that's where we're at with inflation. Next week, I think it's next week, the PCE numbers come out, which is similar, but it is based on surveys from businesses rather than consumers. So we'll see how that how those numbers look next week. But as of right now, not much is changing. And I talked about this last week. You have to think, are we seeing the effects of this yet? Because one of the things Jerome Powell is really trying to affect is housing. And we're seeing the effects in terms of demand and some price changes. However, home sales are a lagging indicator. All of the data that we have in the housing market is usually a lagging indicator by quite a bit too, because it's a long sales cycle. So, you have to wonder, are we overdoing it? Should we pause a little bit and just see where things shake out? Because in the next, 3 to 6 months, the effects of what we're doing now, we might start to see those more and more. So anyway, I'm not Jerome Powell, so I'm not making those decisions. But one of the things that this article said that I thought was interesting is rents are still climbing sharply. Not true. Not in Phoenix. Rents are actually starting to go down. Let me see if I move this, if you guys are able to see this Yes, perfect. Okay, I'm gonna make this bigger for you. So I took this screenshot today from the Cromford update that I was on. So you've got hot and fresh data in front of you. Hopefully you guys can see that. I can try to make it a little bit bigger here. But so for the first time since 2005, rent has actually declined year over year. It had a 0.3% or 0.3% below the quarterly median of last year. So although that's not a huge change, it is an indication that rent prices have been softening, rental rates. And that's not a big surprise, because I've been talking about how these prices have been starting to soften because we have a really large increase in rentals being listed, etc. So, but we are finally, when you look year over year for the first time, seeing a change in rents. So for all of you who have asked for rental info, there you go. That's a little update for you. And like I said, hot off the press. Okay, let's see. Let's move on here. Here are 10 cities with the biggest home price drops since June. I wanted to share this because it's not just about Phoenix. I'm going to skip through all of this because I actually have them listed here. But Austin is leading at 10.3%, Phoenix 9.9%. So we're in the number 2 spot for cities on a national scale that are kind of leading the charge in terms of home price drops. Interesting info to see. They also have Florida, Charleston, South Carolina. We've got Ogden, Utah, Denver, Las Vegas, Stockton, California, Durham, North Carolina, Spokane. I am kind of shocked not to see Boise on this list because I've seen Boise on most of these lists, so I'm not sure. Also have to question a little bit of this info because I think they said that the median home price in the Arizona capital, so I'm assuming they're meaning Phoenix, is $493,500, but that's not the median home price that we're calculating here. So I don't know, a little questionable, but largely this all makes a lot of sense. Hi, Lieutenant Dan from Mesa. Thanks for joining. And finally, catching one live. I'm glad you're here. Your question, are you seeing a lot of concessions from sellers as a buyer? What's fair to ask for? That's a great question. Yes, I believe at the latest number, I think it's like 42% of sales lately have had concessions to the buyer from sellers. So totally normal these days. What's fair to ask for? It really depends on the transaction. It depends on the price of the house. It depends on what you need. My recommendation would be you're probably going to use it towards your closing costs or to buy down your interest rate. Talk with your lender and find out what would actually make a good impact for you, whether that's 2%, 3%, or just a flat number. Look at those numbers and kind of figure out what makes the most sense for you. Hopefully that helps. Good luck. Hello from Minnesota. Thanks for joining, Paul. Appreciate it from far away. Got lots of highs on here. Thank you guys for all joining. I'm excited to see everyone here right before Monday Night Football. Okay, let's talk about the Cromford report. Let's move on. You guys, we are under 100 for the first time. And I think it's the first time since 2014, if I remember correctly. And this just happened today. So breaking news on the CMI, 99.7. And look at this demand and supply. They're pretty much exactly the same, 80.3, 80.1. That's why we're truly in balance, according to the CMI. So interesting to see. We finally got here, and I don't know how much further it's going to go below 100. We've got demand at 80.1, still hanging on to the 80s, but that seems to be changing pretty quickly as these rates have continued to increase. And then our supply has been just really kind of staying stable. We're not seeing a whole lot of new listings come to the market, but the amount of supply on the market is rising. And that's because we're not getting a lot of buyers purchasing or going under contract because of the rates. So since our demand is low, we're just not really seeing those new supply being taken away and out of the mix. But we're not getting a whole lot of new ones either. So, wow. Hovered at 104 for a while now, then down to 102, now under 100. Yeah, it made that move kind of quickly because I feel like I was talking about like 104 for a long time and then 102. But yeah, now under 100 for sure. So I just wanted to show this visual too, because here's our little CMI on a graph. And you can see we're just kind of dipping below there. This is 96.1 because this is actually looking specifically at Phoenix, not this chart is not the entire Phoenix metro area, but essentially looks the same. So we were kind of coasting there for a while, and now we have this little dip. So we'll see what happens. So how does this affect all of the different cities? I know you guys love this chart. I'm going to zoom in here so you can see this better. So a few weeks ago, we had Paradise Valley, Fountain Hills, Scottsdale, Cave Creek. I'm going to take myself off of Thank you. Sorry, I guess I was muted. Sorry, guys. I was trying to take myself off of the screen, not take myself off entirely. So we'll try that. Hopefully you guys can you hear me still? Somebody leave me a comment and let me know. I'm assuming this is good. Cool. Thank you. Okay, so we had Paradise Valley, Fountain Hills, and Scottsdale, Cave Creek all being kind of in the higher end here and all being green arrows. And right now, the top spots have turned red. Chandler and Tempe and Gilbert are the only green arrows that we have left right now. And even those, I don't know how much longer we're going to see those on there. Things have definitely started to change, but I think it's interesting that Gilbert and Tempe and Chandler have all kind of remained strong. I would have thought Paradise Valley, Fountain Hills, and Scottsdale, since they've been leading the pack for so long, would have remained strong. So we're definitely seeing a softening here. And we saw a change month over month by like 4% on average compared to what we saw the month before. We were around 2% of a change. So it's definitely getting a little bit steeper. So let's move on here. Let's look at this comment first. It's not just the rates. I truly believe that prices are still way too high. We had unprecedented depreciation for about 2 years, and this time prices come back down to reality. Yeah, Georgie, we did have a lot of appreciation that's been kind of crazy over the last 2 years. So it absolutely is a correction that's needed. But part of the problem that we have right now is where these rates are going, no one can buy anything anyway. So even as prices are coming down, the rates are still making it unaffordable for buyers, which is really too bad. And I think even as we see prices come down even more, it's still going to be unaffordable because rates make such an impact on your monthly payment, which is what most people are buying for. They're trying to be comfortable with that. So, kind of maybe switching one problem for another, unless prices really crash, which I don't anticipate a crash, but we still have probably a ways to come down. So we'll see. All right, let's move on. And let's talk about accepted contracts. So wanted to share this because it's hard enough to get a listing under contract these days. We just don't have a huge line of buyers for most properties, as we're talking about unaffordability. And now once they get under contract, they're falling out at a higher rate than they have in the past. So this is showing we've got about 1,308 accepted contracts over the last week, and then 325 went back on market. We've got the week before it was 428 as compared to 1,364. So roughly right now we have about 6.5% of homes falling out of contract. And last year around this time, we had about, I think it was 3.4%. So we've totally doubled the amount of homes falling out of contract once they're under contract. So there's just a lot of volatility, a lot of change in the market right now, because even as something goes under contract, there's definitely not any promise that that contract's going to stick. Buyers are much more sensitive to what they're seeing in an inspection, what the appraisal comes back at, getting cold feet, or maybe seeing a new home listed that they like better, or changing their mind to wanting to go to a new construction. All of those different kinds of things are playing a factor in this, and people are just out if they don't want to move forward with the house anymore. So we're seeing a lot more of that. It'll be interesting to see how this changes as we continue to see rate hikes and things like that. So, all right, aren't prices still up year over year? Yes, prices are still up year over year. They are up not as much, though. I want to say, I'd have to check the numbers, but I think it was like 6%, 7%. So much lower than, the 30% that we've been seeing every year, which is not sustainable. But yes, still up, but they've come down quite a bit and are continuing to trend down for sure. All right. And Cato says he's here for the crash. So we've always got, a group cheering for the crash and people looking at things from a different perspective. Mike, how much is this affecting your business? You know what? Things have still been pretty steady for me, which is great. Not for everyone. It's definitely been challenging for realtors, title companies, lenders, everyone who works in the business because your pay and your job is dependent on transaction volume, and that's really where we're seeing the biggest effect. Is number of transactions have gone down significantly compared to where they were earlier this year, and especially over the last 2 years. So the industry is absolutely feeling it. No doubt about that. But thankfully for me, things have remained steady. So Georgie says 8.9% according to Redfin. Is that appreciation that you're referring to year over year, Georgie? I think that's what you were commenting on. Daniel says terrible time to become new agents. Yes and no. I think yes, it would be very hard, but also I think you don't know what you don't know. So if you're coming into this market and you don't know what it used to be, you might just take it and run with it and, work harder and figure it out. Stephen asks, what do you think rates will top out at? Geesh, that is a great question. A few months ago, I would have said 7%, 8%. Now I'm saying 10%, maybe. I don't know. It's really hard to know, but I'm not even going to try to predict it. I don't know. Things are just all over the place. Daniel says lenders are getting torn apart. Yeah, very hard for lenders right now, more so than a lot of others in the industry, because at least as an agent, I work with buyers and sellers. As a lender, you really only work with buyers and refinances. And I'm sure there's more to that too, but for the most part, that's the bulk of your business. And that rates are not in a pretty place for either one of those. Let's see. Glad to hear your business is still moving. My wife's best friend didn't offer to help. We would have, been calling you for sure. Awesome. Well, I appreciate that. I'm glad you guys are in good hands. All right, guys. Well, that's all I had for today. Thank you for participating in all your questions. This is definitely the most interactive I've had with this group. So awesome. I will let everyone go and enjoy your Monday night. If you guys have any questions, you can reach out to me anytime, call, text, or email. Check the description below. I've got a link to set up a time to chat with me, as well as links to find out your home value, search my MLS, and get a relocation guide for free. So make sure to check that out if any of that is helpful to you. Again, thanks for joining. I will be back next week with another market update. Have a great one, guys.